America's capture of Venezuela's dictator could impact the many Venezuelan migrants who are in Colorado and hoping to stay.
This has implications for domestic immigration policy that are pretty profound.
Republicans cheer new funding for health care in Colorado after their budget cut far more funding.
It's not sufficient to fill those gaps that are being cut at the federal level.
The Trump administration is threatening to take over Colorado's wolf reintroduction. And this only looks like fun. These kids are secretly being introduced to careers in STEM. That's tonight on Next. If Nicolas Maduro stands trial in America, he pleaded not guilty in court today, evidence from Colorado could be part of that case. President Trump referenced the activity of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua in Colorado as part of the rationale for the U.S. capture of Maduro. Trump has said the remaining Maduro regime must now turn over Venezuela's oil, or there will be more attacks. Colorado saw an influx of Venezuelan migrants in 2022 and 2023, people fleeing violence there and looking for economic opportunity. Those who stayed could see their pending asylum cases impacted by the Trump administration now claiming it runs Venezuela. Our Angeline McCall has that.
Many Venezuelans across the world have mixed emotions. Some immigration attorneys have their own.
Well, this has implications for domestic immigration policy that are pretty profound.
Hans Meyer says he questions what the federal government will do with pending asylum cases for immigrants from Venezuela.
But it does throw into chaos and uncertainty most of the applications that have been filed, because I would imagine that the federal government may begin to argue that because Maduro is no longer in power, the circumstances in Venezuela have changed.
When people have cited fears of political violence, Meyer worries the U.S. government will say that's no longer a valid fear.
I would imagine the administration is going to argue because Maduro is no longer the president, that the circumstances in Venezuela have changed.
And while the biggest uncertainty is what's next for hundreds of thousands of pending cases, experts say the Trump administration may use it as an opportunity to negotiate more deportation returns.
I could see the Trump administration seeking to tie its domestic immigration policy agenda to the regime change in Venezuela and future negotiations about what that country looks like and what the specific governing policies are, whether good or bad.
Meyer says if you are worried about pending cases for yourself or loved ones, this would be the time to check in with your lawyer or consult with one, especially for those who are more recent arrivals from Venezuela specifically.
So for the folks who are trying to claim in their cases that they have a credible fear of political violence or political retaliation, Maduro's gone, but his people are still in charge in Venezuela.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of questions as to what this really means, right? Is this really just a leadership shuffle? What does this actually mean for the future of the country? Will people still have those same fears that they had when they came here? Will they actually be elevated? Could they be lessened? Those are all sorts of questions that will be asked during these types of asylum case process. Now, with that being said, some people may have a stronger case and other people may have, sort of weakened cases due to whatever the nature is of their particular background and story.
It's intended to be very individual. All right,
Exactly.
Angeline McCall, thank you. The Trump administration has offered shifting explanations for the military action against Venezuela: to stop drug trafficking, to seize control of Venezuela's oil, to free the Venezuelan people from a brutal dictator, though the Maduro regime remains in charge. Over the weekend, President Trump even cited gang activity in Colorado as part of an extensive narco-terrorism case against the Maduro regime.
Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide, and he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now.
Trump's campaign for president hinged largely on a misleading claim that Tren de Aragua had conquered the city of Aurora. In 2024, Republican leaders in Aurora accused the gang of, quote, taking over entire apartment complexes after that video surfaced of armed men trying to get into a unit. Several suspected TDA members have been found and arrested in Colorado over the last 18 months. But police say their presence in Aurora was largely limited to those few apartment complexes owned by out-of-state landlords who neglected the properties. Many of those complexes have been shut down, turned over to third parties, and the landlords themselves face legal action. Republican Congressman Gabe Evans is taking a victory lap for $200 million in federal funding for health care in Colorado after voting for the Republican budget that cuts $1 or $2 billion in Medicaid funding in Colorado. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at the math.
If this were the metro area, the building you're looking at would have multiple stories of glass windows and not be confused for a small high school. Lincoln Community Hospital in Hugo is less shiny than big city hospitals.
80% of our rural hospitals don't have a sustainable margin. So our facilities across the state are all in trouble.
Josh Hannes is the VP of Rural Policy and Strategy for the Colorado Hospital Association, and rural hospitals are set to benefit from $200 million in federal funding each year for the next 5 years.
I'd say there's many areas of the state that need that money first.
The fact that we got $203 million is really a pleasant surprise, and we are delighted.
Kim Bimsteffer is the head of Colorado's Department of Healthcare Policy. Last week, every state found out just how many hundreds of millions of federal dollars it would receive for rural health care, and Colorado's portion put the state right in the middle of the money handed out. Are you concerned that it won't show up given the president's retribution tour of Colorado?
I am not concerned that this money will not show up.
The hospitals that will benefit from this money are hospitals like San Luis Valley Health in Conejos County, Weisbrod Health in Eads, and Southeast Colorado Hospital in Springfield. The $200 million each year for 5 years is even touted by Republican Congressman Gabe Evans with this social media post, but it fails to account for the Medicaid dollars the state will lose from changes made by Congress in last year's budget bill.
That bill every year will hit us with $1 to $2.5 billion in reductions.
So the math appears to be $200 million new dollars for rural hospitals, but $1 billion or more fewer dollars statewide.
We're glad it's coming, certainly, but it's nowhere near enough to fill those holes.
Hannes has concerns for how the state will use the new dollars it was just awarded. The state's application mentioned regionalizing services in rural areas where the closest care may already be 50 or more miles away.
When you create a program that is dictated in a centralized way, that's not going to be successful, and we don't have any confidence that it can be.
When I asked the state about that criticism of centralizing certain rural health care instead of letting the locals decide what's best, the short answer I got was affordability, making changes to make limited dollars pay for more. And while the state and rural hospitals seem to be happy with the hundreds of millions of dollars, it's how that money may be spent that both sides may not be in agreement with.
And we're going to be talking a lot about this, Marshall, because the state legislators come back to the Capitol to start their session here in about 9 days. And the cost of health care and how to fund it in Colorado is going to be front and center.
Yeah, when we talk about the budget and budget cuts at the state level, this is the part of the pie that is the biggest. And I think I'm outdated with this. I think at least half of the money that lawmakers can play with goes to health care. And when you have to fund the other half of what the pie is, schools, corrections, all those other things. Like at some point, healthcare is going to get cut from the state level. And we're talking about how it was cut at the federal level. Money's not going to be there for a while. And that's going to be the biggest thing that we talk about is healthcare funding in this state.
All right, that conversation will continue. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Republicans that piled into their party's primary for governor in 2026, 20-plus candidates, are now looking for other paths to get elected. Perennial gubernatorial candidate Greg Lopez is leaving the Republican Party altogether to run as an unaffiliated candidate for governor. Lopez is fresh off a 6-month stint serving as an interim congressman representing Colorado's 4th congressional district. This is Lopez's 3rd run for governor, ran in 2018 and 2022, but never made it past the primary. As an independent, he could bypass the primary altogether, petition onto the general election ballot in November. Lopez insists he is changing his party. He is not changing his values, which are staunchly conservative. Lopez supports a ban on abortion. He has called for an end to mail-in voting, despite using it to vote himself. He has said that cutting education funding would force teachers to get creative. And speaking of creative, Lopez has called for ending the popular vote, suggesting instead a system that would give more weight to votes in rural conservative counties in Colorado, which would turn landslide losses for Republicans into runaway victories. Republican State Senator Mark Baisley is leaving the governor's race. He's going to run for U.S. Senate. Republicans have struggled to find a candidate to take on Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper. It's considered a safe Democratic seat, and national Republicans have largely ignored it. Baisley describes himself as very conservative. He recently said that gay people are, quote, in rebellion against the nature of God. After the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, Baisley suggested that the riot was the work of Antifa. After it was clear that it was actually Trump supporters, Baisley voted for a resolution to thank the January 6th participants. Well, you have started 2026 the way that you ended 2025. That's not a knock on your fitness habits. That's actually good. I'm talking about your micro-giving generosity. You started 2026 strong. Your first Word of Thanks campaign of the year raised about $40,000 for the Rose Andom Center as they serve domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. You have raised $17 million and counting for nonprofits across Colorado since 2020. We're coming up on your 300th consecutive weekly campaign. It's a good time to mention that many of these micro-giving campaigns start with your suggestions and ideas. So tell me about the nonprofits in Colorado that have earned your donations, that have earned your volunteer time over the years. We may be able to bring them to a wider audience. Email next at 9news.com or text next 303-871-1491. Colorado now has to provide a full accounting of its controversial wolf reintroduction program, or the feds say they'll step in and take over.
As a child, I would have really benefited from a space like this.
Aurora's rec centers are welcoming people of all ages to get in touch with their inner gamer and maybe learn something. That's next. The feds want a full accounting of how Colorado is managing its newly introduced gray wolf population. The Fish and Wildlife Service is threatening to take over wolf management in Colorado because of attacks on livestock here. In a letter sent to state wildlife leaders last month, the director of U.S. Fish and Wildlife demanded a full report on everything that's gone down since Colorado first reintroduced wolves on the western slope in 2023. According to our partners at Colorado Politics, the feds specifically want information about Colorado's decision to bring in wolves from British Columbia and about how the state is managing wolves that have confirmed histories of attacks on livestock. If Colorado doesn't turn over the information by January 18th, the feds say they will take over wolf management, quote, including relocation and lethal removal. CPW told us they intend to comply with the federal order. Evacuations have been lifted after a fire in southeastern Boulder County this afternoon. That fire started on a farm between Broomfield and Lafayette, and the smoke that could be seen across the metro area. Fire started on a farm near Highway 287 and Dillon Road, grew to about 40 acres before firefighters got it under control. Still don't know the cause at this point. No buildings burned, no injuries have been reported. Evacuation orders were lifted for the surrounding area just before 4:30 this afternoon. Firefighters are still in the area, keeping an eye on things. Bring in meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and obviously, you know, with it being as warm, as dry as it has been, any fire start is a bad fire start. That one there was surrounded on all sides by residential development. Good Samaritan Hospital in Lafayette is right there as well, so good thing they got a quick handle on it.
Yeah, very good thing indeed, Kyle. And good news that those winds with this fire today were not as strong as what we were talking about, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. You might remember mid to late December, we had several of those really strong wind events. Fortunately, nothing like that today with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. Still pretty nasty, but not as bad as it could have been. Meantime, today, day number 6 in a row and 23 of 28 at or above 60 degrees. What are we doing? It's another 60-degree day for us here in the winter for us here in Denver, day number 23 since December the 1st, and we're already at the 8th most 60-degree days so far this winter. And folks, we're not even halfway through the winter season. So we topped out at 61 in Denver today, 71 in Lamar, 30s and 40s with some snow ongoing in the mountains right now. Slick spots, especially Berthoud and Rabbit Ears passes. Those are the two really slick spots right now there in the high country. That snow ends tomorrow morning. Meantime, still a bit blustery for us around Boulder and the foothills, and those winds will continue for us tonight and to early tomorrow here in the foothills. Could see some 50, even 60 mile an hour gusts here in the foothills in Denver, some 30 to 40 mile an hour winds tonight into early tomorrow morning. Then those winds slowly back off as we head through the day tomorrow. So when will it finally snow? Well, look ahead at that 7-day forecast. Some morning snow on Friday, late Thursday, early Friday morning. Looking like we will be dealing with a couple inches of fresh snow. Depends on the exact timing of things, but models a bit more bullish on those chances for snow for us for Thursday night into Friday morning. So Friday morning's commute will be the slick one, and then we warm up and dry out this weekend.
Investigators have confirmed it was a mountain lion that killed a woman in Larimer County last week, and they say that they have found and euthanized that particular animal. The attack happened on the Crozier Mountain Trail east of Estes Park last Thursday. Today, the Larimer County Coroner's Office publicly identified the victim as 46-year-old Kristen Kovach from Fort Collins. CPW killed 2 mountain lions found in the area immediately after that attack, and a necropsy confirmed there was human DNA on the male lion killed, no human DNA on a female lion that was killed. CPW has now ended its search for a 3rd mountain lion seen in the area. Trails nearby were closed for several days. They're now back open. I should say, mountain lion attacks on people are very rare in Colorado. There are 28 recorded attacks since 1990, and the last deadly attack was 1999. Aurora's rec centers offer plenty of opportunities for kids to put down the video games and get active. And also, they offer video games with a purpose. Hey, a reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus, and Next is a podcast, the show for your ears, wherever you get those. Community rec centers are full of ways to build stronger bodies. Aurora's rec centers are trying to prove they can also strengthen minds, using, of all things, video games. Our Byron Reed has that.
I'll hop on a PC or you can hop on the Switch.
Playing video games can be a lot of fun.
Honestly, it's just hanging out with my friends.
It's an activity Troy Johnnon takes seriously.
It's great for adaptability. You know, if you're not physically able to participate in a sport, but you still want to be competitive, this space is for you.
Johnnon is a recreation supervisor for the city of Aurora that just opened up 2 new esports hubs.
The city of Aurora has been really progressive and been really great about offering as much as we can for the city.
The hubs are in the city's central and southeast recreation centers for residents who want to try their hand at gaming.
So we have 10 gaming PCs, we have a PS5, a Nintendo Switch, we have a controller set up with a PS4 for our Arise, our day groups, our intellectual disability day groups, so they can sing and dance and have fun in the room as well.
While most parents are trying to cut down on screen time, parents like Stephanie Lutzk believes the centers will help her kids with their creativity.
For me, they're playing a lot of creative games for the most part. You know, they get into the Minecraft game and it's about building up supplies and coming up with solutions for things, and I'm always a supporter of things like that.
Johnnon agrees the time in front of the screen can be beneficial.
A lot of kids that participate in esports actually end up in a STEM-based career field.
Johnnon hopes the hubs will be an opportunity.
As a child, I would have really benefited from a space like this.
So gamers can get in on some serious fun.
Keeping people in the rec center, I think, is great for the youth, other than the other opportunities that are out there that could be not so savory.
For Next,
having this space is just going to make it better for the community.
I'm Byron Reed.
We are back here to finish with your feedback. Next, Marilyn has it. Thank you, Marilyn.
You're welcome.
Did you have a lovely holiday?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you?
We spent a bit of it together. Here at work, don't be weird. Feedback. Folks just back from holiday break have noticed that things are looking a little fuzzy around here. Cheryl's kind though. She said, love the beard. Ryan just said, look who's back. Back again, also noted very gray. Yep, we're getting old together, you and me. Dennis says, the suit is dapper, however, the beard must go. I love this via text. Love your show, but the unflattering beard makes me think you're hiding something. Like facts? That's good. Harold, love the rugged individualism beard. That's good. Ziggy says, your beard makes you look jowly. No, my weight gain makes me look jowly. The beard covers it.